Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Dream Career Talk Show. Dream
Thank you.
Career Talk Show is about building your dream career, which is much beyond getting a job. Here on this show, we are going to have industry experts who will be sharing their knowledge, their experiences, their challenges, their failures, and success so that it can help others in their career journey. This show is basically to help corporate professionals expand their context, get clarity, direction, hope, inspiration, and of course, the right steps to build their dream careers. Now, today's topic is very interesting. It is all about supply chain management. It is one of the fields which is in demand. The growth of e-commerce in both the B2C and the B2B sectors has brought great opportunities for business to expand their reach. Now, why do we need supply chain management? How can we grow in the field of supply chain management? What are the major areas you need to focus? To understand more about supply chain management, we have today's guest, Shankaran Paramsivan, who comes with over 3 decades of experience in supply chain management, strategic procurement, logistics, contract management, and material management. He also has expertise in capital procurement, raw material procurement, along with Greenfield Project procurement. He is a mechanical engineer by education and also an IIM alumni. Shankaran, welcome to Dream Career Talk Show.
Thank you. Thank you, Pata. Thank you. And thank you for your warm welcome.
Thank you. And let's get started on this. And why not we get started with your career journey? Because you have like over 3 decades of experience. And in that, most of your journey, career journey has been around supply chain management. So, how did you get started here and what inspired you to get into supply chain management and stay there for long?
Yeah. Thank you. Uh, Basically, I will start with my journey of this thing after my graduation and other things. When I started from the college, and I got into shop floor, doing operation maintenance and all. So physically, you have to slog it out in the shop floor. So that was really very difficult. But then in initial years, that is what is required for you to learn. So as a mechanical engineer, you have to take a spanner and then start using spanners and start tightening the bolts, nuts and bolts. That is how you learn engineering. So that is where we started actually our journey. And that too, I started my journey with a tire company called MRF in their factory in Goa. So that journey was started, and I was kind of learning, and then it went on for kind of say 7 8 years, and subsequently I we were in a place called Goa, where we had no opportunities to uh, build our qualification or further our opportunities, because the place had only one engineering college, and there was no scope of doing any courses further. Since I started with diploma in mechanical engineering at a very young age, I always wanted to do my engineering degree, and the place was not helping me to get into that, because I wanted to do while working. So part-time courses were not there. So I changed my job from there to Apollo Tyres Baroda, wherein we had a very good university called MS University, and Maharaja Sayaj University had a part-time engineering degree wherein I wanted to do, and I went there. I applied and I got my admission there. 4 years of engineering while working in Apollo Tyres. I did my engineering and then upgraded my qualification. During that period, I was in the shop floor, doing operation maintenance and all those things. And then subsequently, because I was doing the part-time courses, working in a shop floor was hindering my progress there. So I wanted to kind of go into office, so that you're working 9 to 5, and evening 6 o'clock onwards I have my college for up to 9 9:30. So in order to accommodate that, I opted for techno commercial profile, which is purchase. So I got into purchase department. From there, I completed my course, and then from there I started into all this inventory management, warehousing, purchasing, procurement, logistics, imports of material, and all kinds of exposure I had. This is about I think 1996. Since then, I was in purchasing field and doing various activities, right from raw material procurement to maintenance MRO procurement and uh, fuels, oils, and all those kinds of procurement where a tire manufacturing factory requires. So I was doing all those kind of things, and in the meanwhile I did complete my degree, and then I continued my journey. So from then, I during my progression, I got a few opportunities. Then I changed from there to Suzlon for a short stint of 1 year in 2007, and then subsequently I got pulled back into tire itself in Seat Mumbai. So there I was handling all Greenfield Project procurement, wherein we had to do a procurement for a Greenfield project in Gujarat, which was I think close to 750 crores. So I was handling that procurement and got a lot of experience there. And by the time I got well versed with procurement, and I got interested in there of various facets of procurement. In the meanwhile, I got an opportunity to implement SAP in all those companies where I worked as a part of core team member. I worked, and then I had a first-hand experience in implementation of SAP. 2004, 2005. That was a time SAP was getting introduced in India in all the manufacturing sector. Prior to that, everybody had their own ERP platform based on Oracle or something else. So this got introduced, and that was a very good experience, and I learned that. And every organization I went there, I have been given the liberty to be part of the core team to do the implementation. And subsequently, around 2013, I think I moved to non-tire in a EPC company in KEC International, which was a group company of RPG. And I went on a transfer there, and then there also I continued supply chain domain only. I was part of supply chain, and only thing, the EPC company has a different set of requirements. There also I was part of SAP implementation, uh, uh, and it was SAP S4 HANA. It was a very prestigious project for SAP itself, because we had to implement it, the whole project, within 6 months, and nobody has ever done it within 6 months. Implementation of SAP S4 HANA from
And when
some
when was
other.
this? Which year was
This
this?
was this was around 2016 and 2017.
Wow,
So
already
I was part of
five,
it.
6 years back. Because
Yeah,
today, a lot of people now are getting into like S for
I know,
HANA
I
and
know.
all of this.
Yeah, yeah. That time it was just introduced, and SAP took the project implementation directly. There was no third party involved. They came themselves, and we were working with that SAP consultants, and then we did it on time in KEC. That I was part of that, and it was supply chain management from for my business vertical. And that's how it went on. So I overall, I think from 96 it's about 23, 24 years of experience. And then subsequently I moved to Kalpataru Power Transmission. There also I was handling supply chain, and being the same similar type of industry wherein infrastructure projects are handled there. So I was responsible for material procurement and other things. So that's how till 2020 I continued the journey, and then I I had an opportunity in the form of COVID. I came out, and I always wanted to start something of my own, which never
Hmm.
could happen. So I took this opportunity. I came out, and then that is when I got introduced to this passionpreneur journey. Then I got enrolled there, and then now I'm in the journey. I'm doing it. I'm enjoying this journey of entrepreneurship, and that's how it is actually. uh,
Wow, it's
Journey
it's
of
like
24 years.
yeah,
Yeah,
journey of 24 years plus
yeah,
the operations experience that you come with.
Yeah,
And
prior to
I
that,
think,
prior
yeah,
to
go
that,
ahead.
I had all operation experience like maintenance, project implementation, like erection, commissioning of equipments, and of course utilities. There are so many divisions in a factory, manufacturing place. So all those things I have done in maintenance, uh, starting with maintenance, basically.
Right.
Yeah,
So yeah, this is immense. Like coming from tire industry, EPC, then doing SAP. Like 20 years back, you started with SAP as well, and then
yeah,
doing S for HANA implementation. I
yeah.
think you have a lot of things that you have done in your career. Now, for you started from operations management and moved into supply chain, right?
Right.
What if somebody is there into operations management? Like, does it add on when they get into supply chain? Is it like that experience helps maybe 10%, 20%? How much percentage of that experience would help?
See, normally what happens is supply chain, basically procurement. If I talk about procurement, you have to start buying the material. So
Hmm.
unless you have the product knowledge, you cannot be doing a good job in buying. So mostly companies prefer engineers who have worked in the shop floor, who knows. Suppose if they are buying a particular machine, they should be knowing about that particular machine. How does it operate? What are the ingredients? What is the costing? All those things. What are the ingredients that amounts to the cost of the machine. So unless you understand all those things, you just do paper buying, which is not advisable. You have not seen the product. You have just by on paper, somebody has given you a quote and you're negotiating and buying, which is not a good thing to do, and it's not the ideal also. So companies are looking for people who have worked in the shop floor, who knows what is the exact product. They have felt it while working in the shop floor, so that they are able to appreciate better while buying this particular material, get a good price in the bargain, and then add to the bottom line of the company. That's how it is actually.
And since you have been talking about procurement and so negotiation becomes one of the key skill as well for somebody who is into SCM.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, there are three, four competencies I would say. One is basically right now it is SAP. Everywhere it is SAP. So naturally, the person should be able to operate SAP platform. He should be conversant with SAP, in particular module, which is Material
Mhm.
Management module of SAP ERP platform. And then subsequently, other things are like he should be having a negotiation skills, and then the third thing is he should have a very good oral and written communication, because he should be communicating with the external vendors, of course
Mhm.
internal and external, internal customers and external customers both. So you should have a very good communication skill. Then obviously you should have some good interpersonal skills, which is a requirement everywhere. And the product knowledge. Suppose you are buying some say some drilling machine, for example. You should know what is a drilling machine, what are the makes available in the market, and what good are the features, and what is the price that you are paying for it, all those things. So these 4 5 competencies are very essential for to get into supply chain, particularly procurement, and so that you'll be able to do a good job there.
Right. And since supply chain itself is a huge spectrum, like
Yeah,
what all comes under this? Like one, you have been talking about procurement. Then we have like materials, right? Material management you have been talking about in SAP. And we
right.
know there is contract. So what all comes under the supply chain management?
Yeah. So basically, supply chain management is a very broad term. If I again compare a tire manufacturing company, wherein they buy a lot of raw material, like rubber, sulfur, carbon, all those things are raw material to making a tire. So they buy the raw material, they transport it to the factory, they manufacture the tire, and then they dispatch it to the end customer. This is the whole spectrum. So the entire management of the supply chain is starting from raw material vendor to end customer. where who is actually consuming your product, or in some cases it may be dealers. They will send it to dealers. From dealers will be able to sell it to the retail person. Normally from the factories they send it to dealers. So I can say from raw material vendor to dealers, your product dealers, where they stock the goods and they sell it. So this entire spectrum of this thing is covered in the supply chain, wherein you have procurement, you have logistics, you have imports involved in case if you are buying it from out of India, and if you are sending it out of India, then the exports are involved. So all these are coming under the gamut of supply chain. It's a very broad term actually, and it includes even the transportation until the last destination. If it is a customer, or the dealer means dealer. So the product is dispatched through transporters, and then you have a network. Suppose tire, if you talk about factory, will be somewhere in Gujarat, and the products are getting sent all over India. For South India, North India, East, West, all the places. They are dealers everywhere. So the entire transportation network, that is where the logistics network comes into big picture. SAP plays a big role there. Now, how you can optimize your inventory management is coming into picture, and your warehousing is coming into picture, and billing, dispatches, all those are part of this actually. So the person generally can talk about procurement, and he can be in procurement or he can be in inventory control. Depends the person where which segment he is working there. But if you look at it at a broader level, at a bird's eye view, it covers from raw material vendor to finished goods consumer actually.
Right. And you said import export. So person
Yes,
should also have this knowledge of import export if you are importing and
absolutely.
exporting products.
Absolutely, because right now, for example, if I have to say, there was a tire plant, Greenfield facility, getting installed for C8 tires in Gujarat. The 750 crores is the project cost. Out of that, more than 50%, almost 60% is material which are imported, because the technology is purchased from outside. All European countries like Germany, France, or Italy, all those countries. Then you have some are from US. Then you have some are from Asian countries like Taiwan, China. Of course, all these countries are contributing to the technology. So every other equipment which is purchased for a tire, very technology intensive equipment. So when you buy them from different outside India, so naturally import is involved. So they break down in knockdown condition. They dispatch it, and then you take it through import, through sea shipment, because these are heavy shipments. You can't afford to take it through air. So sea shipments and containers, loads of containers, and then they brought to whichever port you're nearby. Like for Gujarat, earlier it was coming through Bombay. Now Gujarat means Gujarat itself. There are Mundra port is there. There are two, three ports which are very efficient ports, which are able to clear the customs and give you the material. So the entire set of import activity is getting involved there, since you're buying the technology from a overseas vendor,
Right. And
and you
even
are
if there is no,
dealing with different currencies, different
right.
culture of people when you're negotiating. So all those things are involved actually. So I had the experience of negotiating with all these vendors from various countries, and their culture, their how they approach, how the first of all language, then how they behave, what are their core values. Like Japanese, they are very 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 difficult to handle, those people. Like, every country has their own culture, and the company has, of course, they depending on the market share they enjoy, they are dominant sometimes. You have to handle all those things. It's a very good experience, import and thing. And being tire, I know, because there is lot of components which are imported. like I said, 60% of the plant and machinery is imported. So naturally, you should be uh, able to handle the imports and all that if you're in procurement.
So you need to understand the materials, you need to understand the
Yes,
transportation, logistics, all of
absolutely.
this basically in this role.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So you should know Incoterms, you should know the different ports from where you are going to get it shipped. You should know the freight forwarders who are able to bring your material from overseas port to Indian port. Then your custom clearing agent is involved. Then there is transporter involved. You are dealing with so many agencies. The entire thing is covered under logistics. So you have to do a complete planning, and then coordinate with all the concerned people, all the stakeholders, and then get the material, exactly uh, the particular time. If project people execution people might ask for certain equipment on certain date, you have to get it on that particular date. It's going to be a lot of work, you know a lot of external agencies are involved. Suddenly you will
Hmm.
realize customs are closed, your customs material is stuck, you're not able to get it cleared, so you have to push it through the agent, get it cleared, and use a transporter who is fast and efficient. And these are all very heavy equipments, 30 tons, 40 tons, single piece, very
Hmm.
heavy volumes. So it is always coming in a trailer, 20 feet trailer, 40 feet trailer, and the container also, there are different types of containers. Open top container, like closed containers, and there are many varieties are available. So depending on the equipment that you have to get it packaged uh, through your the supplier company, and then get it to your Indian port, and then transport it by road to your factory. That's how it is. A long network involved, actually. It's a
Right.
good experience.
But here, when we are talking about this wide range of things, right? Can people be specifically into logistics? Can people be specifically into returns, dispatch, and all of that in the SCM? Can they
Yeah,
specialize in this and then pick up?
yeah. So why I'm talking at a senior level person handles all this, but
Right.
if you talk of an assistant manager level person, he will be either in a procurement, or he will be in the inventory control, or he will be in a logistics section, or he will be handling only the imports side. So
Inputs.
there are
Mm-hmm.
so many segments available, no? So
Yeah.
they will be working in that particular segment, and as they grow in the seniority, as they grow in the hierarchy, they start handling two sections like purchasing and inventory, and then
Hmm.
slowly they grow, then they start handling logistics. I'm talking at a senior level
See,
person handles
senior
all
level.
this.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Yeah, but makes sense. Like the way you grow from one segment, you
yeah,
understand all the segments and be able to head that.
absolutely.
Right. And how does this procure to pay cycle work, basically?
See, it is again one segment of supply chain, I would call it. And procure
Hmm.
to pay cycle is starting from the intent or purchase requisition, which is raised by the end user in the factory. Suppose
Hmm.
maybe one mechanical engineer or electrical, and somebody who is maintaining that equipment, he wants certain part, so he will go raise a purchase intent, and through various approvals it goes to purchase department, and the purchase department uh, gets all these kinds of indent from all across the end users. Various departments are there, so everybody raises indents and used to come to purchase department, and there are various buyers in purchase department, so each one is allotted one area, like,
Hmm.
so suppose department section A, section B. So the section A purchase intent will go to a particular buyer, say C. So he will only handle the purchase indents from that particular section. Then he will get all that, he will scrutinize them, he will check all the specifications and all those things, and then he will, you know, uh, raise an inquiry to the vendor. So he will say, suppose drilling machine. So if he has an approved vendor list, from there he will pick up the list of vendors, and he will float an inquiry, which is request for quotation. We call it
Hmm.
RFQ. So that is sent to vendors. suppose three vendors, they say for comparison of rates and all, it is better to send it to three people. So three people, RFQ is sent, and the quotation is given by the respective vendors for that particular drilling machine as per the specification, you know sent by the buyer in the inquiry. So he will quote exactly for that, and then you call him, discuss, and finalize one of this is where the negotiation process happens. So what is the product that you are offering, whether it matches with our exact requirement, then what is the kind of price, then what is the delivery that they are giving. Suppose somebody will give it in 2 weeks, somebody will take 4 weeks, depending on the logistics available or the stock available at their end. Then you have the quality thing. If it is a branded product, of course quality is already taken for granted, because quality you're not going to sing. If it is a reputed make, if it is a local make and all that, then you have to see the quality also, then you have to look at the service aspect, then you finalize a vendor out of that. Then the vendor is given the purchase order, as per purchase contract is issued to that particular vendor, and then he supplies after, say, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, whatever is the time agreed. He's supposed to supply the particular material to the warehouse there, and then he will generate some documents like invoice, packing list, delivery challan, all those mandatory documents he will generate and quote the reference of the purchase order, and then he will supply it. And there is a stores or warehouse, or wherever we call it, inventory setup is there, inventory management setup. So they will receive the material, they will check. Suppose purchase order has been given to that vendor for two numbers, then he should supply two, not one or not three. So he will say, he will check that, he will check the delivery dates, he will check the quality, he will check all those things, and then he will acknowledge, yes, the vendor A has given two drilling machines as per purchase order. You can go ahead and make the payment. Then that document is called goods receipt note. So they acknowledge the goods that it has come as per the purchase order. Then the buyer, takes it and forwards it to accounts department for making the payment to the vendor. And then after verifying all the document requirements, finance has certain requirements like tax, GST number, they are all those parameters are there. They will verify all that, and they will also cross check with with respect to purchase order, whether correct quantity has come, whether the right material has come, all those things. And then finally, then the payment gets released to the vendor. So this cycle is called procure to pay, basically. And in that entire spectrum of thing is completely operated through SAP. So
Okay.
there is an automated solution also available in SAP. You can raise a RFQ through SAP, and the vendor can put your put his code in your portal. If you have given access, then it can come through completely a soft quotation without a hard copy. Or some companies, they do manually, so they send a RFQ through email. The vendor sends a physical copy of the quotations, and then those things are scrutinized depending on the company arrangement. Whether some companies have automated the entire spectrum, some companies have done it, some portion of it, and some portion they have left it like negotiation, judgment, to decide whom the order has to be given. All those things are, it requires intelligence, which a system cannot do. Although system has a provision, it can tabulate, SAP can tell you like, these are the vendors who have quoted, and who is the lowest vendor generally, and based on the pricing, and depending on the parameters that you have configured, it will recommend. But then it is up to the company to decide and go for it, or go for somebody else depending on their own judgment. So there is a manual intervention uh, is possible there. So depending on the automation level, the process, either it is totally automated or partly done manually and partly through thing. And ultimately, everything is done through SAP.
Right. Hmm.
That is why the person should be able to, have the operating knowledge, and the purchasing and the inventory control and the finance, all these are integrated. The purchase order raised by the purchaser can be seen by the inventory management person, so that he can verify. He doesn't have to physically ask for a copy because the system is integrated. And then when it goes to finance, finance person can see the purchase order and then verify. Okay, two numbers of drilling machine order is placed to so and so. What is the time agreed? All those things he can see, and then those terms and conditions are verified and the payment is given. So the advantage of having an integrated system is that actually you're saving a lot of
Yeah.
manpower there.
Yeah.
That's how
So
it is.
SAP implementation basically has made it very easy and
Very simple.
automated process.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
And because the process is automated now, what happens with the careers of people who are into supply chain? Do you see any reduction in terms of the workforce? Do you see there is a demand that is increasing in the supply chain management field? How do you see it?
Yeah. Naturally, see, like olden days, where we have to have a huge set of people, like 10 people, 15 people are required to run a department. Now they are having only 6 people or 7 people. So there is a 50% reduction of number of people because of introduction of SAP. Because many things can be done by SAP. The report generation, it can tell you what are the purchase order generated, it can tell you what are the purchase indents pending with the buyer, it can tell you what are the deliveries pending from a supplier. So it can give you so many reports, so the person can take out reports, understand it, and then start following up. So what happens is there the lot of manual effort
Interventions.
is reduced. Yeah, manual intervention which is normally required. Physically they have to go check and all that is not required now. System tells you. System can give
Right.
you today. You run a report. It gives you that
Right.
so many vendors who are due to supply today have not supplied today. So then you start chasing them, like follow up is
Yeah.
done. So definitely manpower reduction has happened. But then there are new avenues like logistics is there, like
Hmm.
imports are there, and MIS section. There is somebody who will be doing only MIS reports, management information system reports. Running a report. What are the material which is supposed to come have come, and what are the material got rejected, sent back to vendor, because ultimately the production is linked to this particular receipt of this material. The particular part has not come, the material is under breakdown. So if it is under breakdown, it is not producing. So
Right.
every hour idle equipment is costing huge money for the company. So it is escalated to the topmost level. So then they say why this material has not come. There are many people who have sleepless nights in the night because the material has not reached on time and the equipment is idle. So naturally it gets escalated, and then you have to put all your effort and then get that material, follow up or physically go there, start chasing the supplier. There are many follow-ups are done. So per se, the procure to pay cycle, which was being done by two people, now is being done by one person. Definitely, that
1%.
much reduction
Mhm.
has come. But there are other areas where people can be engaged, like I told you, inventory management and quality control. There is inspection involved. There is logistics there, and also vendor audits, vendor rating. There is a separate department called vendor development. You
Hmm.
develop new vendors. So suppose you are having a product which is not being supplied by only one vendor is there. He's pleasing you like monopoly vendor. He's charging you very heavy. So you decide to go and develop some other vendor. Then that happens through this particular section. They go talk to few vendors and ask them to uh, support them, give them the drawings, complete know-how, develop a particular material, put it in the production, test it, find it okay, then start taking from him or ask him to do rework and improve the quality. So it's a continuous cooperation and coordination which goes on actually. So there
All
are
right.
many areas of supply chain which
Opportunities are still there.
Yeah, which
Only thing
requires
is
people.
maybe mundane jobs are now cut, like something at
Correct,
the
correct.
level one, whatever people used to do.
Yes,
But
yes, yes.
opportunities still exist in this particular area.
Yeah, 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 yeah. Earlier, people used to keep a record of purchase indents. Suppose a factory of 1,000 people, there's so many indents used to come, hundreds of indents. So manually, a person used to keep record of all those things, and it's very difficult to keep a track of all those indents manually. Now those
Hmm.
things are automated completely.
Automated.
So
And SAP, like in the flow,
yeah,
like first it has to go to Fatah Khan, then to Shankaran.
yes,
Once he
yeah,
has approved, immediately it
yes,
goes to the next person. So there is
yeah.
no manual intervention there.
The entire workflow is designed as per the flow, so process
Flow.
flow. So it starts
Mhm.
from purchase intent, it automatically goes to the particular approving authority, then it goes to the respective buyer, then he takes action. There is a purchase order generated, which is possible to be seen by all the other stakeholders like inventory person, finance person, even the vendor. Of course, vendor, we are sending a copy, authorized
Right.
copy, because India still have that original order, original document. That those
Original,
things are
yeah.
very important in India. They want a signed copy of purchase order, but other
Right.
countries, they have taken it as okay. If you send a copy
Digital copy.
and
Yeah.
digitally signed copy, they accept it. But slowly those things are coming up in India also. But it is a lot of transformation which is happening, like other field. Supply chain also is getting transformed.
Right. And now we have this e-commerce also in India, especially like from few years, the Amazons, the Flipkarts, and all of this. The kind of supply chain, I think, the kind of orders that are placed, the kind of work is done. Like, is there any process change when it comes to e-commerce business, especially like the Amazons and the Flipkarts?
Yeah, yeah. See, everybody has a different model. Business model is different. Like
Hmm.
Dell Computer, I was talking to you about. Dell Computer has a model where they have warehouses in most of the metro cities and all, where the orders are getting generated. So they have a warehouse where they have all the components, and they get an order within 6 hours. They do assembling of the component, test it, and then dispatch it to the particular client. So this is one model where the factory. Otherwise, normally what happens is centralized at factory. So one factory is there where it is produced and sent to all over the country. That
Hmm.
is one way of doing. And in order to reduce transportation time and inventory cost and all that, people have evolved. They have started this Dell kind of a model was very successful. And for particularly electronic items like mobile phones, your laptops, all those gadgets, they have a warehouse, and they assemble it and give it. But some companies like high-end products like Apple phones and all, so they do it only from the factory, because it's very highly technology intensive, where there are commodities involved. So that can be done by anybody, just assemble, test it, and give it. So depending on the business model the company that is following. And like Amazon, Flipkart, all these companies, e-commerce companies, they operate in this model only. They have everything in the warehouse. Suppose
Hmm.
city like Chennai, if you consider outside outskirts of Chennai, they have warehouse, and then they store all the required components. They moment they get the order, assemble it and give it immediately. That's how it is actually.
Right. And here in this new model of Amazons and the Flipkarts, like, does the producer or the consumer save anything? Because earlier the inventory management also was one of the biggest cost involved, right? So how is it helping the producers or the consumers here now?
Yeah, it's a very good question. See, ultimately, the consumer end customer is paying all the cost. Every cost is passed on to the end customer. If you carry inventory, there is an inventory carrying cost, and there is a logistics, transportation cost. You know, shipment of some particular material, sending from one part of the country to the other part of the country. There is the transportation involved. There is time involved. There is a lot of pilferage. There is quality issues. It gets exposed to various weather conditions. A lot of problems. All those things are avoided, and you are getting a quality product. definitely cost has come down, and because of this particular business model that they're operating, and they say, some of the best car companies, you can say, they operate in just in time model. There are many car companies, they get their components every 4 hours. Can you imagine? They have an
Wow.
inventory of only 4 hours, and all those auto ancillary units are situated around the car factory. Like Gujarat, if you take, or even in Chennai, where is a automobile factories are there. So they say the ancillary industries are supposed to get located within 3-4 kilometer radius. So what happens is the components are produced and immediately supplied in a day, 3-4 times, 5 times they are supplied round the clock. The factory runs and they keep getting supplies. So what they do ultimately, they are cutting down on the inventory cost. They don't have to carry. So every 4 hours they get fresh stock and they
Fresh
use it for
stock.
production.
Mm.
Yeah. So they don't, and if it goes beyond 4 hours, immediately they do some makeshift arrangement or they go to alternate vendors. Normally they have standby vendors like A, B, C. So for a same component, there is a vendor, B vendor, and C vendor. Purchase orders are given to all three, but the main vendor is given, the main component is given as 60%. The next vendor may be given as 40%, depending on the, his quality, his service, and his pricing and all that. So
Mm.
alternately, they people start supplying, and the manufacturer takes liberty to, suppose fact the vendor A is not able to supply, he can always buy it from vendor B and then still run his production on time. So a lot of
Right.
cost has come down, lot of time has got reduced, and if you talk of any of this material, earlier the lead time used to be 4 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, and all those things. Now it is all in hours. It has come down so much. They take a assurance to the end customer. If you're like your Swiggy, Zomato, the food is not delivered within half an hour, it is free from our side. That is the kind of
Correct.
you know deadlines they have, and it has
So,
really brought about a lot of changes.
but there
And
is a lot of pressure also in this model, right?
lot
For
of
the
lot,
especially the
lot
manufacturing units and all of
Yeah,
this.
yeah, yeah, yeah. A lot of pressure for the people who are involved, and lot of technology involved, because the entire thing is operated by programming softwares and this and that. They have programmed it in that way and kept it so that all this can be done, sitting in one place, and
Right.
reduce long lead times, reduce inventory carrying cost, reduce all your pilferage cost. All these are
Right.
benefit to end customer ultimately.
Right. And what if there are parts that are coming from different, say, cities, right? And then you are actually assembling at one place. So, which segment of the supply chain team takes care of this? Because I think one challenge in that is if there is one part that is not available and you have 10 other parts, right? You cannot still deliver that product. So, which
Absolutely.
part of the supply chain team takes care of this?
Yeah, basically everywhere it is purchasing department only is responsible, and there is
Mhm.
inventory control departments. Say stores management is there. They have a software, and there is a bin card system or whatever system is available depending on their configuration. That will tell them, like, you have today particular day, say 29th November, you have a stock of four components, so that will be enough for next 4 days. So the fifth day you will go out of stock. So the person has to manage to bring the next lot of material within 3 to 4 days. That is his window of uh, uh, leverage, where he can try and get his particular item. So the SAP displays. So this material is going to go stock out in the next 3 days or 4 days. He keeps getting a warning, and then
Right.
immediately he alerts the supplier. So
But
see
what if
my
the order gets cancelled in between? Like how is that managed? Right? Which team takes care of this one? Like you
yeah
already like you have to make the stock out, right? And that's where you are producing more, but you don't have the inventory management system now, right? And the order gets cancelled. Now you have to manage all of this. So which part of the team takes care and how is this handled?
Yeah, basically, the whole thing is handled by procurement. supported
Hmm.
by inventory management basically.
Mhm.
And then that is why they normally keep every particular material. Like I told you, they give order to they split the order to two vendors. Like one
Hmm.
vendor is given 60%, the other vendor is given 40%. Suppose you need 10 pieces, 6 pieces is given to vendor A, 4 pieces are given to vendor B. It is highly unlikely that both the vendors go all of a sudden problematic and they are not able to supply. That is, probability is very less. That
So
is
all
why,
the time, this is the model it's followed, is it? Like they
yeah,
still work with one primary and the other backup, something
yeah.
like that.
So wherever there is no other vendor available, say like in a situation where there is monopoly vendors also available,
Hmm.
there you have really this problem. Then you generally, monopoly vendors make sure that it doesn't happen because their credit, their credibility is at stake. So normally they will not allow this to happen. And beyond that, if it happens, yes, you suffer. You end up production getting suffered, and then it is escalated to the topmost person, and then whatever he can do, he send a person, make a person fly and then get this component. If it is a small one carryable and all, then they take it through air, lifting the material. Many times we have done that in case of emergency, and the person has to go take a flight and then collect the material, take a return flight. That is a kind of the thing possible.
Oh,
So
so there's
anywhere
so
to
much of
anywhere,
cost involved in that.
yeah. So, but that time, if you compare a idle time cost of equipment, the person going say from Chennai to Delhi and then he has to bring the material and come back to Chennai, that cost is how much? 20, 30,000, 40,000 maximum. But then the
Right.
equipment idle time is 1 hour. It is costing say 1 lakh. So
Yeah.
for 4 5 hours, it is going to cost 5 6 lakhs, just for
Right.
example. So
Right.
it is always idle time cost is very high. So the companies, they try and avoid that idle time cost.
Idle time. And one of the challenge that I had seen in one of the product companies I worked was they were like doing a lot of sales, but one of the challenge was the returns, right?
Yeah.
They were having a lot of money that is going lost because a lot of material when it is being returned, say at least 5%, 10%, that was the huge revenue loss for them. So how do you handle this, like in any segments like tire industry or whatever industries?
Yeah, see, as far as I know, every company has a target for them. How much is the returns that they can allow? Possibly, like I said, they operate within 1%, less than 1% is the return that is allowed. So what they do is they put a lot of various levels of inspection after the material is produced, whether it is right in quality and the quantity before it is getting dispatched to the particular customer. So there is so many stages of inspection. There is redundant inspection. One fellow checks it, then another fellow checks it, then the third person clears it, like that. So there's very highly unlikely that a defective product going to a customer or a wrong shipment
Wrong
happening.
shipment also happens sometimes, right? The
Yeah, yeah.
billing
So
team ship to
yeah,
address, bill to address that
yeah.
they add there.
Yes, yes. Like majorly three, four reasons. One is quality defect, and second is wrong dispatch to a wrong customer, and then maybe third thing is wrong product to a right customer, and
Hmm.
fourth one is the material which is to go in certain packed condition. It is not gone that way, so there are damages in the transit damage we call it. There is
Oh,
so many reasons for returns, so we'll have to address all of them. And generally companies have inspections to carry out before the dispatches are happening. So there are so many inspectors, quality inspectors, and
hmm.
they are supposed to check quality and quantity. So it should not happen generally. And if suppose say tire companies, they operate less than 1%, are now for that they work in very parts per million. That is used to be the measure of rejections, and
Hmm.
it's a very accurate and minute measurement through which they are controlling actually. So you can have so many defects uh, for a particular number of tires. Say 1 lakh tires, you can have so many, defects. Say 1% or less than one
Right.
percent, for example.
So
So
right from like manufacturing to procurement to like
yeah,
supply and then delivery, packaging, everything is like a strict quality check here.
absolutely, absolutely. And there are redundant checks. One person misses, definitely the next person is there to see that. And it's very highly unlikely that it crosses all of them and then it goes.
Hmm.
And of course, if it is going, then naturally it is a manual error, human error, which has to be rectified by taking a suitable action. But
Right.
generally, as an organization, by design, it should not happen. And
Hmm.
for some reason, if it is happening, they have to rectify that.
Yeah. And like if you have to look at the supply chain management, what are the most common challenges faced in this?
Yeah, see, first thing, there are basically 4 or 5 parameters. Like I said, cost of
Hmm.
the particular material, then quality of the material, then there is service is involved. If some of the items, if the vendor has to promptly give you service also, and then the delivery. These are the 4 parameters having a weightage. So depending on the weightage, some companies they give very high rating to delivery, on time delivery. Some companies they give a very high weightage to price. You know, they only say 50% weightage to price, or some people give weightage to quality, you know depending on the configuration in the SAP. Every parameter is controlled. So like the challenges are, you have to get cost the cost of the material within the budgeted cost. The year when you begin a year, no, so when the financial year starts, suppose you need 1,000 pieces of certain material, say a. So if that costs suppose 10 rupees each, so the budget is already decided, 10,000 rupees is a budget based on previous buying and all those things. So ultimately the buyer has a benchmark of buying it within 10,000 rupees, all 1,000 pieces. So if he is buying at 8,000 rupees, he's saving 2,000 rupees. That is his achievement. If he's buying at 9,000, he's saving 1,000 rupees, like that. But if he's saving at 11,000, if he's buying at 11,000, obviously we are losing 1,000 rupees. Company's bottom line is going. So
Hmm.
accordingly, cost is an important factor for a buyer. Then of course, quality, suppose that particular part gives a, say, 1 million cycles. If it is supposed to give 1 million cycles, if it is failing, say, within 75,000 or 7 lakh 50,000 cycles, naturally your product is not lasting the amount that it can, and the cost is going up there, and it is supposed to last so many cycles, like. And even for a tire, if you see, tire has a certain mileage, it has to last 70,000, 80,000 kilometer, or even a lakh kilometer. And if it fails before that, or if it wears and tears before that, and gives you a failure, naturally your cost is going up, right, to the end customer. So that is another challenge. Then delivery, of course, if you don't get delivery on time, your idle time of the equipment goes up. So naturally, you are losing on your production. Suppose you are supposed to produce, say, 1,000 pieces of whatever you are producing, and your idle time, because of the idle time, you are not able to produce 1,000. You are producing only 900. So 100 is a loss in production, which is a cost to the company again. Then
Right.
of course, service another parameter. Suppose you call a vendor, ask him to address a problem. You say we want certain things, like you immediately supply. He doesn't listen. He does not respond. Then the service is not proper. Or if you return some material and ask him to replace it, he is not doing that. Then there is a problem. So all this 4 parameters are very critical, depending on the item. So price, that is cost, quality, service, and delivery. So the vendor is rated based on these parameters. So the challenges also come only on these parameters, generally, all
Right.
these 4 parameters. So depending
Hmm.
on the challenge, you are supposed to take action.
Right. And in the beginning, you spoke about if somebody wants to be in the SCM career, right? The supply
Yeah,
chain management. You spoke about some of the skills like interpersonal skills,
yeah,
negotiation,
yeah.
understanding the products, right?
Right,
All of this. Now,
right.
what is the career roadmap? If somebody has to enter into it, how do they get started? Like, what do they do initially? And what is the career roadmap? Like, they become an inventory manager, then they become a SCM manager, whatever levels. How are the levels defined here in their career if they have to grow?
See, I would advise, suppose a manufacturing company, then if suppose the person has a background of working in the shop floor, then it is added advantage. Then
Hmm.
suppose he works there for 2 3 years and understand all the products, and then from there he goes into purchasing. He will be a successful person because he knows all the product, and this can be one way of starting. All of us have done that. I have also started from the shop floor. I have seen many people who have started from the shop floor, but there are other people who have not worked in shop floor. They are just buying on paper. They have no
Hmm.
knowledge of what is the particular material, so the vendor can always take advantage of that. So you should always work 2 3 years in a shop floor, and then gain that knowledge, and maybe try to go to techno commercial profile. Start with purchasing, and then slowly raise there and understand the purchasing as a buyer. Then you are interacting with vendors, you're interacting with the internal customers, external customers, so your communication and all gets improved very drastically. And and obviously you're operating SAP platforms and all those things. Then slowly you get into inventory management. That is another area. As a person grows, you can start handling purchasing, starting with purchasing. Then you can start handling inventory management. Then slowly you can go to logistics, depending on his grasping, or every 1 or 2 years. If he wants to grow, then he has to take additional responsibility. So naturally, that can happen only through this, and he will also grow. At the same time, the organization also gets benefited through his growth, and they elevate him. Like, so, initially the person handles purchasing, then he grows, goes to add inventory management. Then there is logistic, then there is imports, then there is vendor development. There are so many sections of which the person can depending on his capacity, go on taking additional responsibility, depending on the uh, uh, company's structure. Somewhere to some people they allow, somewhere they say no, no, we have to have different set of people. Then it's their choice.
Yeah.
So then they can grow in this fashion, and then ultimately you will have a complete bad view of supply chain management, and then you can go to a senior position and become a head of department or so.
Right. And you were like very well placed in your career and you were able to grow well in the
Yeah,
supply chain management field, work for some of the
right,
top companies there. Now,
right.
if you have to advise people how they can grow fast in their careers in the SCM, because you also today are mentoring a lot of people on this particular fields, right? So, what are the
Yeah.
top three tips or something that you can give to people who can grow really fast in their careers?
Yeah, I do my webinars. I help people to fast track their career. Normally, I talk to them, I help them and support them in this 3 4 areas. So basically, one is that you have to be a complete professional. Working in a corporate, you have to be responsible. No complaining, no condemning, no criticizing or anybody. So be professional. Be have discipline. Come on time. Come on. Go out on time and all those things. This is a basic discipline which is required. Second thing is, like, the person has to have complete have somebody as a mentor, who can guide him within the company or outside the company. He may have some aspirations, like by next 2 years I want to become a manager, for example. He is
Hmm.
now currently an assistant manager, so he should know to become a manager what are all the additional skills required. So the mentor who is outside or inside the company can guide him and then take him to that level, so that the next 2 years he is able to achieve that particular thing. And third thing is, he should promote himself and the person who is doing a good job in a company, because company has thousands of people working, you nobody really knows if you are doing a good job. It has to be known to people. It has to reach the top bosses or top authorities, so that they consider at the time of giving you promotion or your
Promotions.
appraisal time, all those things. You have to blow your own trumpet. If you keep saying that, no, I have done this work, but I have not discussed with anybody, I have not told anybody, then nobody will know anybody anything
Right.
about your good work. So this is one area. And then the last is, like, you have to also be in sync with your immediate manager. And if you don't gel with him, obviously he is going to spoil your progress. So he's you can discuss with him. So for the next 2 years I want to become a manager. He can rather help you. Okay, you do this particular activity. Suppose you are in purchasing, you do inventory management, maybe I will elevate you next 2 years. And depending on your performance, then he may promote you. So you have to take additional responsibility. Basically, these three, four are the main reasons on which, main pillars, you can say, in
Hmm.
which you can really fast track your career, like any other domain. Of course, here also it is the same requirement, and then you keep growing by taking additional responsibility, by taking ownership, by being professional, and then be open to learning, with a mentor or a boss, and then progress. That is
Yeah.
the thing I tell people.
Right. I completely agree here. Right. One is definitely being professional, taking that complete ownership, right,
Yeah.
and creating that visibility, taking initiatives. And the
Yes.
most important point you mentioned about, like, have a mentor in life who has already walked that path, so that they
Yes.
can fast track your journey. Right. A mentor
Absolutely.
can definitely fast track your journey and save you years together and help you to grow very fast in your career. So I think
Instead of
these are,
inventing the wheel, instead of
yeah.
inventing the wheel, you really grow fast.
That's right. Absolutely. I completely agree with that. And I think this was an amazing session where you covered a lot of things about whatever, starting from logistics, procurement, the payment cycles, the contracts, the everything about the supply chain
It's my
management, whatever we
pleasure
could
always.
cover as per this particular time schedule, right? I think we have
Yeah.
covered a lot, and at the end, you also closed it with a very good tips there on how people can grow fast in their career, along
Yeah.
with talking about the skills. So I think this was amazing. Thank you, Shankaran, for being here and sharing your
Yeah.
immense knowledge with people out there and helping them to grow fast in their careers as well.
Absolutely, Fatah. It was my equally my pleasure, and then sharing my experience. And if it benefits somebody who is watching the show, I'm blessed. So, thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, Shankaran. And thanks everybody for being here on live and watching us. And
Thanks.
for people who are going to watch us later on the recording as well, I'm sure you are going to love this session. If you are somebody who is looking to grow in the field of supply chain management, then go through this session. And also, you can reach out to Shankaran on his LinkedIn profiles. He is available on social media, especially on LinkedIn. You can connect with him, and he will be glad to support you and help you in your career journey as well.
Of
So
course.
thank you for being here, and stay tuned for the next episodes where we'll bring more industry experts so that they can help you to build your dream careers. And until then, stay safe, stay blessed. Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.